Hey gamers, it's Joe the Apostate Cow here, and this is a video I've wanted to make for quite some time, but I've put it off, and I don't even know particularly why I keep putting it off, but I have some time, so I want to get this out of my system. If you've spent time, reading comments and articles on the internet for the last few years pertaining to video games, there's a rather pervasive meme. It's almost a counterculture meme. And that is the sentiment that there's too many shooters, too many first-person shooters, or even too many third-person shooters, too many shooters, okay? I've seen this a lot, that there's just, there's too many goddamn shooters, enough with these shooters already. And, every time I see that or hear somebody express an opinion that there's too many shooters, I have very mixed feelings. Because on the one hand, I understand where they're coming from, and I'm going to get into that in a little bit. But I think a lot of the people that are complaining about too many shooters are complaining about it for the wrong reasons, and their motivations are somewhat misguided, in my opinion. Not only that, I think some of the people that complain about it are also a little bit uninformed. Now, what do I mean by this? Okay, let me just tackle this head on, okay? I think the biggest red herring here with this idea is that there aren't too many shooters. There's too many generic, by-the-numbers, military, or what have you, uninspired, unimaginative shooters. That's the problem, okay? The Call of Duty syndrome, even the Battlefields, and then all the imitators. Let me ask you a question. Are there too many shooters like Borderlands 2? Are there too many shooters like BioShock Infinite? Are there too many shooters like the Metro 2033 and Last Light? I'm going to use a screenshot actually from Last Light. By the way, if you have not played the Metro games and you own either an Xbox 360, a PS3, or an Xbox One or a PS4, especially if you have a new system, go get Metro Redux if you have the PS4 or Xbox One, because those games are awesome. Okay, are there too many shooters like that? No, because what those games are creative, artistic games where, yes, first-person shooting is the mechanic, but they're immersive worlds, creative worlds with stories, with a level of immersion and atmosphere that's unparalleled, okay? And in the case of Borderlands, a lot of humor, etc. And we don't have nearly enough shooters like that, in my opinion. Not nearly enough. Another great game that's kind of underrated from last gen is a game called Bulletstorm, which, might sound stupid, and believe me, the game is kind of stupid, but it knows it's stupid. And it didn't sell all that well. It was made by People Can Fly and Epic Games, and it's this crazy, over-the-top shooter set in this destroyed resort hotel-type world where there are mutants running around, and it's got crazy boss fights, really over-the-top sort of potty humor, kind of Duke Nukem inspired. But in addition to first-person shooting, there's this leash that you could grab enemies with and fling them into spiked walls, and you would get points for this, and those points could be used to upgrade and buy ammo and new gear. And there was a gun that had you shot a chain out, and the chain had the grenades on either end of it, and it wrapped around enemies, and it would either blow them in half or blow their legs off or some shit like that. And you could combine different things. It was one of the most fun fucking games I've ever played in my life, Bulletstorm. And it didn't even sell all that well, which is a shame. And if you have a last-gen system, go check out Bulletstorm. You can get it for like $5 or less. Ridiculously cheap. And again, I don't think there's too many shooters like that. The problem is the industry wants to be, these other copycats want to get that Call of Duty dollars, so they go after they make these games that are just these sort of, get to the chopper, dude bro kind of shooters. Now, I'm going to be honest with you here. I like shooters, even sometimes the generic ones, in moderation. I think that shooters get too much flack. There was a time when especially first-person shooters were considered just amazing and cutting edge. I mean, when Doom, the original Doom came out, etc., the original Wolfenstein, these were cutting-edge games that people were gaga for. But over the years, because of all these generic imitators, people have become soured and look at shooters as sort of like, well, that's just for casuals. When really, it's just these military and these multiplayer, shooters that really are the casual component, and yet shooters just get branded across the board with this stigma. And the last thing I'll say, and this has to do with the uninformed aspect of what I said at the beginning of this video, is I wonder how many people saying there's too many shooters actually were around years ago. Meaning that, okay, I go back, I've said this before, I go back, to 30 years in gaming, okay? I've been gaming since I was a tiny, tiny little kid. As long as I have memories, I've been playing video games. I go back to the Atari 2600. You know what the first game was I played in my life? It was a game called Space Invaders. And you know what you did in Space Invaders? You shot aliens, okay? From a little like tank or ship at the bottom of the screen, you shot up at aliens. Shooting in video games has been around pretty much as long as video games have been around. Shooting is nothing new, okay? Then there was Asteroids, Missile Command, Yar's Revenge, etc. Then on the NES era, the first game that came with the NES, right? You had Super Mario Bros., but what else came with that? Duck Hunt. And literally, you got a physical plastic gun that you shot at the screen with, okay? And then there was games like Contra, where you were a commando shooting aliens, Life Force, Mega Man, Metroid, plenty of other games. Back in the 80s, that you shot stuff. Shooting in games has always been around, and I hope it always will be. Sorry guys, call me a dude bro or whatever. I like shooting shit, but I like it in an immersive, interesting environment with a story, etc. I'll tell you this about me as a gamer in general, putting shooting specifically aside for a second, I don't like games that don't have any combat, but understand what I mean when I say combat. Super Mario Brothers had combat. You jumped on top of the mushrooms. You flung tortoise shells at enemies. You got the flower fire upgrade and shot fireballs out of your hands. I consider Infamous to be kind of a shooter, even though there's no guns. You're still shooting things out of your hands. But that's just me, and I'm kind of going off on a bunny trail as I tend to do. Bottom line is, I think shooters have gotten an unfair stigma due to the industry's lack of imagination and pandering to that dude bro, buy the numbers, get to the chopper, plant the 3 bombs, get to clear the mortar pit type games where it's just you do the same shit over and over again. But anyway, I've gone on too long already. Let me know what you guys think. Do you like shooters? Do you want to see more interesting shooters? Let me know. That's all. Talk to you later.